Today we're talking about something that's been causing a huge storm in the Fortnite and esports community, the Peterbot Controversy. If you've somehow missed it, a clip recently came out of Peterbot, a professional Fortnite player, using a racial slur, the N-word, while he was hanging out with others. The clip is short, but it's shocking enough that it's gone completely viral. Now, words like that are serious. They're not just gaming trash talk. They carry real history, real pain, and they can hit people in a way that lasts far beyond a joke or a one-off comment. But here's the thing, I'm not here to completely destroy Peterbot, and I'm not here to pretend it's fine either. This video is about looking at the situation in full. We're going to talk about why what he said was wrong, but also why I don't think it makes him a genuinely racist person. We'll talk about the role of peer pressure, immaturity, and why I think there's space for some level of forgiveness. Let's start with the obvious. The N-word is not just another word. It's one of the most historically loaded, deeply offensive racial slurs in existence. For centuries, it's been used to humiliate, dehumanize, and justify violence against black people. When that word comes out of your mouth, whether you're saying it in anger, joking with friends, or repeating something you heard, you're bringing all that weight with it. You might not mean it that way, but the history doesn't disappear just because your intent is different. That's why it matters when public figures say it. People look up to them. Young fans copy their behavior. And in the gaming world, where casual use of slurs is already way too common, hearing a pro say it can make others think, well, if they can say it, so can I. So yes, no matter the age, no matter the pressure, no matter the context, it was wrong. It had impact, and it's okay to be disappointed or upset about that. Now, let's talk about the environment Peterbot was in when this happened. According to him, this was when he was 16 years old, living in what's called an agent house. Basically, it's a place where young players live together while competing and training, kind of like a team house. In those spaces, you've got teenagers, a lot of them far from home for the first time, hanging around each other all day. If the loudest voices in the room are saying stuff, it's way too easy to join in without thinking. And from what I've heard, everyone in that house at the time was saying things they probably shouldn't have. Does that excuse it? No, but it helps explain it. When you're young, you want to fit in. You want to be part of the group. And sometimes that means doing things you wouldn't normally do if you stop to think about it. That's not an excuse, but it's a reason. And reasons matter when we're talking about whether someone's actually hateful or just being immature. Here's where I want to say something that some people won't like. Peterbot is far from the only pro or famous person who's ever said something like this. In fact, I'd bet money that a lot of big names in the Fortnite scene and in other games have said it privately at some point. Not because they're all racist, but because gaming culture, especially in its younger circles, has a problem with treating slurs like edgy jokes. The difference here is that Peterbot was caught on camera. That clip got out, and once it's out, there's no putting it back. I'm not saying everyone does it to make it okay. I'm saying it because we need to be honest about the fact that this problem is bigger than just one player. If we act like Peterbot is the only one who's ever slipped up like this, we're just lying to ourselves. The truth is, plenty of pros have probably said the same word, just without a mic live or a phone recording them. So does using a racial slur make you racist? In my opinion, it's not that simple. Racism is about your consistent beliefs, attitudes, and actions toward people of other races. One terrible moment, one stupid decision doesn't define someone's entire worldview. If Peterbot had a history of making racist comments, treating people differently based on race, or doubling down instead of apologizing, that would be a different story. But from what I've seen, this was a single moment, not part of a pattern. That doesn't erase it. That doesn't make it harmless. But it means we can look at this as a huge lapse in judgment rather than proof that he's a committed racist. When Peterbot responded, he admitted it was him in the clip. He said it happened when he was younger, that he was heavily influenced by the people around him, and that it was wrong. Some people are calling it a ChatGPT apology. Basically, a polished PR statement that might not reflect his real feelings. And sure, maybe someone helped him write it. That's common in esports. But what matters isn't whether he typed it alone. What matters is whether he follows through. Does he stop using the language like that? Does he learn why it's harmful? Does he make an effort to do better? If the answer is yes, then the apology is worth something. This is where it gets tricky: forgiveness. Some people think certain words are unforgivable. Others think young people should always be given a second chance. I think the truth is somewhere in between. Forgiving doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means saying, "We recognize this was wrong. We expect you to improve. But we're not going to hold this one moment over your head forever if you genuinely change." For Peterbot, that means accepting that some people will never see him the same way. That's part of the consequence. But it also means he can prove through his future actions that this was a mistake, not a reflection of who he really is. This situation should be a wake-up call for the gaming scene in general. Words matter. The stuff you say in private, in voice chat, or when you think no one's listening, it has weight. And these days, there's always a chance someone is listening. If you don't want to be in Peterbot's position, the solution is simple. Cut this language out of your vocabulary entirely. It's not worth the edgy joke points. At the end of the day, Peterbot said something he shouldn't have said. It was wrong, and it hurt people. But I don't believe this one clip defines him as a person. I believe people can change. I believe people can learn. And I believe in holding someone accountable while still giving them a path forward. Whether you forgive him or not is up to you. But I think we should at least give him the chance to show who he really is going forward. But there's something else we need to talk about: the culture around gaming and esports that allowed this to happen in the first place. Gaming has long struggled with toxicity, not just from random players, but sometimes from the very people we look up to. The competitive environment can be high pressure, intense, and emotionally charged. Add in young players who are still figuring out who they are, plus the desire to fit in or stand out, and you get a perfect storm where bad language and bad behavior can flourish. We've seen this pattern in other industries too, whether it's sports, entertainment, or social media, where talented young people make mistakes early in their careers. What separates growth from failure is how they respond, how the community reacts, and whether there are structures in place to support positive change. This is a moment for the Fortnite community and the esports world as a whole to ask some important questions. How can teams, agents, and organizations create safer, more respectful environments where young players aren't pressured into toxic behavior? What responsibility do streaming platforms, tournament organizers, and sponsors have to set clearer standards and enforce them consistently? And how can veteran pros and influencers use their platforms to model better behavior, educate others, and push the culture forward? The goal isn't to police every word or turn esports into a stuffy space. It's about building a culture that respects all players and fans, regardless of background, and makes everyone feel welcome. We also have to recognize the role of education here. Many young players don't grow up with a deep understanding of the history and impact of certain words and actions. They might hear a word in a game or see it online and not fully grasp why it's so harmful. That's why ongoing conversations, diversity training, and community efforts are crucial. Change isn't just about punishing the mistakes. It's about creating a better future. And while some people want to see zero tolerance and swift banishments, we also have to balance that with empathy and the reality that people do grow. We don't want a culture that just throws people out at the first sign of trouble. We want one that helps people learn, hold themselves accountable, and become better versions of themselves. So what's next for Peterbot? He's got a chance to turn this into a positive by owning his mistake fully, committing to change, and maybe even using his platform to raise awareness about why language matters. That could be powerful. It could help prevent others from making the same error, and it could show that the esports scene is mature enough to handle these tough issues thoughtfully. This controversy is uncomfortable. It forces us to look at some hard truths about our culture. But it's also an opportunity to grow, to listen, to improve. At the end of the day, esports is about community, competition, and respect. We all have a part to play in making sure those values shine through. Thanks again for watching and engaging with this important conversation. I'm looking forward to seeing how this scene evolves and hope we can all push it toward a better, more inclusive future. See you next time.